Together we shall cast ourselves into the future.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and another Halloween themed video. This video I'm excited for. I've actually done one before, but I'm going to be watching a bunch of our favorite Halloween movies and basically breaking down what is truthful and what's not when it comes to the psychic ability. Now, if you're new here, I'm a psychic medium, animal communicator, but most importantly, an intuitive coach. And I teach you guys all about how to strengthen your psychic abilities. And one of the big things on my channel that I like to teach is just breaking down the myths and all of the silly stereotypes that are around the psychic ability. And one of the things that I like to do every now and then is just watch some movies and basically dispel some myths and point out what's wrong or maybe what's right. So the first movie we are going to be watching is Practical Magic. Now, this movie I actually did not find out about until a few years ago, when I had some other woo-woo friends be like, oh my gosh, you have not watched this. I will say that this movie is actually very good about showing a lot of things correctly. I'll kind of break down some of that as we watch it, but this is like a quintessential witch movie. It shows this kind of stuff in a good light, not a bad one, and it gets a lot of things right. And I mean, the fact that it's set in the 90s just like makes everything better. And I will say there are going to definitely be spoilers in here if you have not seen these films. So if you want to skip ahead, check out the chapters if you don't want to spoil these movies. When I do these reviews too, I am not like a practicing Wiccan myself. I won't be speaking to mostly that kind of stuff in any of these films because I just don't feel like I know and I have that expertise. But I'm just going to be looking at it from like a psychic medium standpoint.
Is all I think about. Why the hell else would I come here?
Take the money, Jim.
I will say though that I definitely encounter, I mean, I feel like all psychics probably encounter people that are like this, that are just desperate for information and how something works, and they want, you know, in this case, this chick is like wanting this dude to love him, and they do this spell that apparently gets him to love her back. A lot of people believe that, you know, if you're wishing for something, if you're wanting something, if you're trying to manifest something and you're doing it from a place of desperation, being overly emotional about it, you're probably not going to manifest exactly what you want. And again, this goes more into the witchcraft side of things. They really believe that like the rituals that you do, you will get back in return. But I think the same goes for intuitive work. If you're trying to get a question or an answer to a question and you're so desperate and you want an outcome so badly, then oftentimes your reading won't be as accurate. And I have a whole video on that. I mean, this movie is just so beautiful. I can see why so many people love it. It shows witches in such a positive light.
You can do this. I know you can. I remember, I found it here when Mommy and Daddy died.
Even if we did bring him back, it wouldn't be Michael. It would be something else, something dark and unnatural.
I don't care what he comes back as long as he comes back.
Oh, I'm trying to get emotional. So I love this piece. I can't speak to this because I mean, obviously most people probably know that witches cannot bring people back from the dead. I mean, the closest I would say you can get to it is you can communicate with somebody that has passed. But I mean, this was the 90s and they also had to do it to make the movie look cool. It does give off the impression that maybe witches could maybe not necessarily bring people back from the dead, but do very evil things. And although I'm sure some people could argue that yes, you could, from what I have learned about Wiccan and from what I've studied about it is like you do things for positive reasons, and anybody doing that is doing it the wrong way. And so, but it does give this impression that witches do evil things and they do dark things on purpose. But I found that most witches that I know don't do stuff like that. They do things to make positive manifestations in their life.
Witch! You're a bitch!
You'd think after 300 years they would come up with a better rhyme.
I hope you get chicken pox! Kylie!
We do not
toy with people's lives. Do you understand? This is not a game.
No, you don't guess. And you probably couldn't even if you tried.
I think that's a few good points happen there. So definitely there are people that even if you are not a witch and you just practice psychic stuff in general, they often get lumped together. And I could see, well, I do know a lot of people that might have been into this when they were younger, and they definitely got ostracized because they were into it and they were younger, and it gets associated with witchcraft and Wiccan things. Often, but it's like, it's not even the true version of like what witchcraft and Wiccan things are. I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot about this even though I said I wasn't going to. So that definitely happens a lot with kids, especially when they have parents that are into this stuff, but then, you know, they're around other kids that don't necessarily understand it, and other parents. And I think this was the same when she was pointing and saying, hey, you're gonna get chicken pox. Like, the parents' reactions were perfect because they took it way too far. They were like, oh my gosh, like these faces. And obviously that's not gonna do anything. And I think that's pretty accurate, that, you know, a lot of people just don't know, and so they assume. And so something is like finger pointing and saying you're gonna get chicken pox, they think that could be related to that kind of stuff, but it's totally not. So just, again, like the ignorance of not knowing what things are and making the assumptions based off of it. Definitely they did a great job in this movie of showing that. Okay, this is psychic.
Julie, I know. What's wrong?
That's just a little moment. That's definitely like a precognitive hit, when somebody is about to call you and you guess who it is. And that's actually one of the exercises that I teach people to do a lot of times, is try to guess the next person that's going to call you. And whenever you're trying to pick up information about the future, that's called precognition.
Black is night, erase death from our sight. White is light. White as mighty hectate, make it right. Black is night, erase death from our sight.
I love that part. So the 5-pointed star is kind of the symbol of Wiccan, and they, for this spell, they need to draw one, and that's all they have. And that's actually, you know, even they're going through that spell book and doing this like very ritualistically, which is what you want to do when you're doing spells. They just use what they have around them. And from what I've read about spell work and stuff like that, is like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to go out of your way and buy all these fancy things. You can use what you have. Classic scene right here.
Switch and let the cauldron bubble.
What I love about this scene is it just shows people like having fun, and like they're still human. You know, they might be all witches, but they're all having margaritas. Like, again, another great reason why this movie just shows things in such an accurate way. I feel like there's so few of those, and that's why so many people probably love this movie.
Something's going on. I can smell it.
Yes, it's a very distinct smell. It's a smell of bullshit.
I don't know what you're talking about. Broom fell. Company's coming.
I'm curious what the broom falling means. I assume that's another superstition. If anyone knows, let me know. Clearly, though, they're definitely being intuitive here. Like, I feel like these witches, they also mix, like, the psychic ability with these two older women. It's like they're able to sense when something is off. And that's definitely true. When you start to hone your intuition, I feel like it's a lot easier to tell when people are lying to you. And so that's definitely a trait that these two have.
She's not saying they murdered him, just that maybe they shook his hand and then he died. It's very mysterious.
Again, I feel like superstition comes out of ignorance and just not knowing what things are. And so, like, the fact that you could shake someone's hand and kill them, obviously they're exaggerating it in this movie, but that happens with like so many things around the psychic ability, around witchcraft, all of it. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can tell me when I'm dead, or oh, you can, you know, read my mind. And so you get a lot of reactions like that. And it's not because, people are mean or wrong necessarily. They just don't understand. And so what we need to do as fellow psychics is just kind of educate people on what's correct and what's not. And I feel like movies need to really step up their game, because that's where the majority of people get their information about psychics and about witches. And those people are not representing us very well, are they?
I got people telling me that you're up here cooking up placenta bars, that you're into devil worship.
No, there's no devil in the craft.
So
I love that. I mean, just putting in that line is so helpful for people. Like, there's no devil in the craft, and that's so true, because, and I'm learning from a book that I'm currently reading, and they don't believe in that. That's a very Christian thing that came about after, that wasn't even something that they believed in. And so devil worship and Wiccan, I should say Satanism and Wiccan, two totally different things that often get lumped together. And that's because of Christianity basically trying to, say, hey, don't go down this path, don't go down that path. Any path that's not ours, don't go down that. Again, it's not what it seems. They actually worship both a god and a goddess. And so I love that little line there of there's no devil in the craft. And I just love that, they very subtly put things in.
curses only have power when you believe in them. And I don't.
Yes. That is my favorite line of the whole movie. Curses don't have the power if you don't believe in them. And I think that's so true. Because there are people out there that will say curses are absolutely real. And then I'm kind of the intention that you can block them, that you can, put up a bubble and protect yourself, that nobody can affect your energy but you. And so if you believe that somebody put a curse on you, which I've walked into metaphysical stores and I've seen panicked people being like, I need something to reverse this curse that somebody put on me. And I'm not trying to judge. If you've been in that spot, I feel like if you believe it and you feel like you need to go out and buy something to further protect yourself, go for it. But my biggest thing is saying, why can't we say that they're not real? Even if we're wrong and they are real, what happens when you set the intention that a curse or somebody setting a bad intention towards you is not real? I mean, basically all you're doing is you're setting the intention that I'm not going to entertain this. I'm not going to give this energy my time of day. And you start ignoring it. And that's something that I've talked about with spirits. Sometimes if you have a hard time shutting off spirits talking to you, start saying that you don't believe in them. Again, even if you're wrong, what's the worst that it does? The worst that it does is shut it down until you can safely turn it back on. And so I love this line because it's kind of that same energy of okay, even if the curses are real, if I choose not to believe in it, they're not going to affect me. And that's how so many people can go through life just not even paying attention to intuition or spirits. They are perfect examples of just automatically shutting it down because they don't believe in it. And so for anybody that's out there struggling with feeling like somebody's coming after you, or if there's a psychic attack after you, or somebody's put a curse on you, I really encourage you to tell yourself not to believe in it anymore, because I think in a way it shuts it down and it just lets you stop paying attention to it, at the very least, even if it is real.
I see our instincts are getting a little rusty.
So they basically found out that her husband or her ex-boyfriend is possessing her body. Also something I believe that can't necessarily happen. Now, I'll add a caveat to that because I feel like if you truly believe that something could take over your body, I feel like you can be so empathetic and open to that spirit that you just sort of channel what they say and what they do and how they act. And I feel like it's a very, if possession is real, it's less possession and more channeling. You're letting something come in. And basically, you're setting aside yourself. I'm setting aside Lauren to let somebody come in and basically just tell me how to do and act. But again, I don't think that this is real. I really believe that you have control at all times. And if you have gotten to a place where you feel like you're possessed, it's because you feel absolutely no power to control your own self and your own energy. And so when it comes to possessions in movies, I'm really like, it gives the wrong impression. It gives the impression that you don't have control over your body and that somebody can come in and take it at any time. So if that's ever a fear there, again, kind of like what I was saying, don't believe in it. But this time, because it isn't real. And it's honestly, I think it's a sign of poor boundaries, and that you're just completely unconfident, not confident in your own ability to maintain your own energy. I hope that makes sense. What I love about this is they called up all their neighbors. They're playing happy music, and basically all these Karens are being introduced to witchcraft, and in the end you'll see that they are like totally into it. And what I love about this is it's basically saying that when people believe things together, and maybe not even believe things, but at least respect each other, like you can have a good time. And I think one of the reasons why probably so many people love this movie is because of the camaraderie, you know, all the females together basically being weirdos together. And I think that's what a lot of people enjoy about this movie, is they just want a group of other people who can be authentic like this. And I will say you can find those people.
Would each of you now pick up your brooms, hold them at staff length, handle to brush.
I'm not sure the significance of brooms. I haven't learned about that yet. Somebody let me know. But I do know that with circles, just any circle of intention, when you're doing a spirit circle, for example, in a circle, you basically have everyone set their intention that everyone is protected, that nobody's going to come in and talk to you that's not of your highest and best good. And while you do that individually, doing it in a group and really sitting there and feeling that circle of energy, feeling everyone's intention, it just amplifies it. It makes it more powerful. And I think that's why, like, people, when you go to church, for example, the energy of everyone in that room completely believing in this, in God, you know, can feel so powerful, and you can feel it clairsentiently. And I think that's why some people absolutely love going to church, is because they feel that shared group intention. And the theory here with the circle, like, you're technically not supposed to break it, because then it breaks the energy. Honestly, if it happens in a spirit circle, like, somebody has to get up and go pee. Like, most people try really hard not to, like, go to the bathroom before you do a spirit circle, whatever. But sometimes it happens, and it doesn't screw things up. Like, it doesn't let energy in or out. It just kind of, like, brings people out of it. You're not as focused, because somebody's getting up and going to do something else. And so with the circle, I think that again comes from more of the Wiccan beliefs, some of those older age beliefs that you have to, like, do your practice in a circle. But the reason why she couldn't come into the circle was, like, we don't want to break it, and same with, like, her, she can't get out of that circle. Now, is that really real? Absolutely not. You can walk in and out anytime.
I wonder if that would work on my ex-husband.
Come on, ladies. Let's clean house.
I love this part, because it's like, they're just getting it everywhere. Alrighty, so that was Practical Magic. If you have not seen it, I hope I didn't just spoil the whole entire thing for you, but I absolutely love this movie. Great points in it of, I mean, they did a lot of things true to witchcraft. I mean, not everything, but I mean, I honestly don't know of a film that does any better than this when it comes to it. So one of my favorite Halloween movies, and if you want to watch it, I'll put the link in the description down below.
Good luck, Harry Potter.
Oh, am I the only one that gets emotional at that?
Do it! Watching people press their ugly faces in on you. Can you hear me?
as an animal communicator, I could talk about this scene. So when I talk to animals, I'm never really reading their body language or looking at their face. Because oftentimes their body language might not match what they're saying or feeling at all. And so because of that, I actually try not to read animals face to face. Sometimes I like looking at photos or just connecting to their energy remotely, because stuff like that can throw me off, because you assume that if they're happy, they might look happy or they might be wagging their tail or something like that. Usually when I talk to animals, they don't even like acknowledge me. Sometimes they'll actually go lay down and like take a nap, or they'll walk into another room, or sometimes they'll go and they'll sit on their owner's lap and just fall asleep. One thing I do see a lot is they fall asleep, and I always wonder if that's maybe because it just helps them connect more intuitively, and not be distracted by like other things that they're doing. But just a fun little fact there.
I'm a what?
A wizard, and a thumping good one, I'd wager.
I can't be a wizard. I mean, I'm just Harry. Just Harry.
Well, just Harry. Did you ever make anything happen? Anything you couldn't explain when you were angry or scared?
I mean, that's the same for intuition. Have you ever predicted something? Have you ever had a dream about something and then it came true? You're a wizard. No, not really. You're intuitive. You're psychic. Where's my Hufflepuffs at? Anybody else a Hufflepuff?
Bloody Baron.
Now this is a good one to talk about. So a lot of people think that when I say that I can see spirits, they think it's like this. They think that, you know, I'm seeing a whole entire person in front of me. Now, obviously that's not the case. It's more in my mind's eye, and I did a video actually like showing how I legitimately see them if you want to watch that. But it's more in your mind's eye, but it makes sense for these movies because you can't just be like, oh, there's a ghost there, and have somebody interact with it and just not see anything. So I get why the filmmakers do it, but it ends up causing a lot of problems with people learning how to use their psychic ability, because they just assume, oh, I'm supposed to be seeing this. I'm supposed to be seeing full-bodied spirits, and why don't I see them? There must be something wrong with me. And it's because we almost never see it this way. I mean, a spirit has to be really strong for me to be able to see like what they're wearing, like their face, all of that. And so sometimes I'll just get a face, or just a person, or just like it'll be a ball of energy. But again, it's kind of like in my mind's eye, and it's superimposed onto like whatever's in front of me.
The swish and flick. Everyone? The swish and flick.
So precious. So there wasn't that many scenes in this movie, so I'm just gonna skip ahead to the next one. This is making me realize that my ideal dream house is basically all the dream houses in all of these witchy movies. Like Molly's house, and then the house in Practical Magic. Ugh, love it.
You hear this voice, a voice only you can hear, and then Mrs. Norris turns up petrified. It's just strange.
Do you think I should have told them? Dumbledore and the others, I mean.
Are you mad?
No, Harry. Even in the wizarding world, hearing voices isn't a good sign.
This is definitely a classic, like, misconception about hearing voices. Like, don't get me wrong, there is hearing voices with schizophrenia, and that is something completely different, and we separate those two. But hearing voices is basically just picking up psychic information clairaudiently. So you're hearing things, or you're receiving thoughts. And there's a way to know if it's you versus psychic, and I have some videos on that. But just because you hear voices does not mean you're crazy. And even in this movie, it implies you're crazy. Like, the only person that can hear voices is Harry, and it's his parcel tongue. But that's pretty typical, especially if you're a clairaudient, and it can lead people to believe that hearing voices is crazy. I mean, again, there is a fine line there of schizophrenia, and that is different. But hearing voices is pretty common if you are clairaudient.
Who would ever talk about ugly, miserable, moping, moaning Myrtle?
She's a little sensitive.
Assumption that spirits can affect the things around them. I personally don't believe this. I feel like they have to be very, very, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but I feel like most of the time spirits cannot move things. And if you believe they move things, then all of a sudden you start seeing things move and you start associating it with it. But I don't think that happens very often. And it might be like what I said earlier of maybe it does happen and maybe it's because I say, no, you can't move my things, no, you can't touch me, no, you can't do that, that I don't experience it. But maybe it could be real. It's okay, Harry, you're just clairaudient. Or maybe you're an animal communicator.
Can you tell me?
If only automatic writing were that simple. Just sucks you in and gives you all the information in a nice movie screen. I will say though that if anyone is watching that and wondering if you've ever watched that and wondered if you could do automatic writing and write to somebody, that is a technique that you can use. So if you are very akin to writing, definitely check out the video that I have on it. It's one of the ways I connect the best. You can't ask questions like he did. He was asking yes or no questions, and I have a whole video on that too. But you can definitely write out and start kind of like letting it flow and speak to a certain being or spirit.
We'll leave you to deal with the monster, Gilderoy. Your skills, after all, are legend.
Very well. I'll just be in my office getting...
Getting ready.
There's no Hogwarts without you, Hagrid.
Oh. All right, I think this is the end. I'm gonna move to the next movie because the third movie is the one that I want.
The sight. Hello, I am Professor Trelawney. Together we shall cast ourselves into the future.
It's images like this one. And I won't blame the filmmakers here because this was Jo's writing, basically, because she was crazy in the books. But it's like, even in the realm of this magical world, psychics are not taken seriously. And if you've read the books, like, the art of divination is, like, questionable, like, Hermione gives it up, and, like, people just kind of, like, brush it off. And she's, like, not right the majority of the time, but she has, like, moments where she is. The image of it is what people associate with psychics, and it has been this image for so long. And because of it, we have to fight against what this looks like constantly. And like even the students in the classroom don't take her seriously. She bumps into stuff. She's just like a trope of an idiot, and they portray her that way. And I think it's a little derogatory subtly. Like, I don't think they're intentional with it. I think that people don't think about it and think about the people who do this and do it right and do it accurately. They just think about the bad apples, the crazies, you know. And she is definitely representative of some people out there, but I think that it's not the majority.
You, boy, is your grandmother quite well?
I think so.
I wouldn't be so sure of that. Give me the cup. Oh, pity.
I mean, she's a great actress. Like, I love her. You know, what they do is they make these crazy characters, and they portray all the wrong parts of a psychic. A psychic that reads you unintentionally, doesn't give you much information, like, reads all the negative and not the positive. Like, I would never say, oh, I would never walk up to somebody randomly and be like, oh, your grandmother is about to die or something like that. I teach a lot of ethics here on this channel, and that's just something we don't do. It's not helpful at all.
Oh, your aura is pulsing, dear. Are you in the beyond? I think you are.
Sure. Well, it's got sort of a wonky cross. That's trials and suffering. And that there could be the sun, and that's happiness. So, you're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be happy about it.
Trying to read tarot. I love that line. Tea leaf readings is actually a thing, and you can buy these like really cool cups that have like the symbols on the inside of it. I haven't learned that. It's something that I want to like figure out one day. I think it's like sort of similar to like reading things in the clouds, reading things in nature. If you believe in it, it'll work, but if you don't believe in it, you know, you're not going to get signs that way. I'm Hermione in this. She's just like, seriously?
You have the Grim.
I will say too, somebody once asked me to show up to an event dressed like a fortune teller, and I was like, are you serious? And I said very kindly, I was like, nah, I'm gonna wear the clothing that I normally wear for this event. And she was like, but no, it'll sell it more. It's part of the illusion or something like that. And I was kind of like explaining to her how it's derogatory and, you know, that's not the image that I want to be portraying. And she was like fighting with me about it over the phone. And I finally just said like, hey, I don't think I'm the psychic for you. And she got so mad at me. And it's like stuff like that, you have to have a little bit of integrity or else, I don't know, you're furthering that problem. And I just like can't even imagine dressing up like that to make a client happy. That just, what would happen is I would sit there and people would think I was silly. Like people would not respect what I'm doing or even just give me a little bit of like trust because I'm making a fool of myself to fit an image that's incorrect, if that makes sense.
My dear, you have the Grim.
The grin? What's the grin?
Not the grin, you idiot, the grim.
I mean, Trelawney is a perfect example of the psychic you shouldn't be. So, I mean, there's something there, I guess, but I feel like she's also portraying here as being afraid of the messages that she's getting constantly, and she's always looking for the bad. And I'm not sure where that image came from. Again, it must have been a lot of psychics that just didn't do things for the right reasons and maybe just had poor ethical boundaries of like saying scary things that they should probably keep to themselves, like telling people, I see this bad thing coming up. And I try really hard not to ever like, if I do see those things, I will phrase it in a very ethical way. And so Trelawney in some ways is a really good representation of what not to do.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Very good. You need to force it to assume a shape you find truly amusing. Think, Neville, think.
Ridiculous!
I love the principle of this because it's basically, it's kind of like that curse thing that I was talking about with practical magic. You know, if you don't believe in a negative spirit, let's pretend this Bogart is the equivalent to like a negative spirit. If you say, hey, I don't believe in you, or not even that, you know, like I don't entertain your energy, like I'm not gonna talk to you, like I'm not gonna give you my time of day, I think you're funny, I think you're ridiculous, you know, I'm just gonna ignore you and laugh at you. And, you know, not saying that you have to like laugh at a spirit, but it's more like you're not taking them seriously. Then they're not gonna stick around and try to communicate with you, they're gonna go find somebody else that is gonna listen to them. So I think the principle of this is great for understanding belief and intention, because a lot of the things that I do here, I set the intention, I set a belief that you will do this or you won't do this, or you will communicate this way, or you will receive psychic information that way. But the thing is if you don't believe it, or if the opposite, if you believe that only negative things will happen, or you only believe that you can't control something, then you're going to experience it that way. But if you set the intention that I'm not going to entertain this, I don't talk to negative spirits, then it's going to happen. And you really kind of have to step into your power with it a little bit so that you can keep away those negative energies.
My dear, from the first moment you stepped foot in my class, I sensed that you did not possess the proper spirit for the noble art of divination. No, you see, you may be young in years, but the heart that beats beneath your bosom is as shriveled as an old maid's, and crystal and dry as the pages of the books to which you so desperately cleave.
That was a great line. Crystal balls, I will say, is definitely a way that you can pick up information. It's called scrying, and you can use all sorts of tools to scry: fire, water, crystal balls, even rocks, actually. So there's a lot of tools that you can use for scrying. I always recommend using your clairvoyance over scrying because you're using your intuitive mind instead of an actual tool as a crutch. But I do have a whole video on crystal balls if you want to check it out. And the other thing I was going to say is this moment I see perpetuated to this day. And basically, Trelawney is saying, you don't possess the gift. You don't have the ability to grow your psychic abilities. Like, you don't have it. And that is a misconception I feel like I'm constantly correcting. People are always like, oh, I wish I could do what you do. I can't do that. I've never been psychic. I've never had psychic experiences, but I learned how to be psychic. Yes, some people are born with just a natural proclivity. Some people do have that. But as far as like gifts, like everyone has the ability to grow this. Your ability might be very like little right now, but you can do it. I did it. I, again, didn't have very many psychic experiences growing up, didn't really even think about it. Wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I started thinking about it, and I went out of my way to learn, to take classes. You guys know my spiel if you've been here before. Everyone has the ability to do this. It is not a gift chosen for just a select few.
Innocent blood shall be spilt, and servant and master shall be reunited once more. Oh, I'm so sorry, dear boy. Did you say something?
Now, I would say actually this is a little bit more accurate. So people who have learned to channel can sometimes have a different voice when they channel. It's not the actual spirit's voice speaking. It is literally they're just using their voice in a different way because they're sort of in a meditative state. They're not really thinking about using their normal voice, and it's kind of just like sometimes, not all the time, when you channel, it comes through differently. And then the fact that she sort of like came out of it and didn't remember things, that it definitely happens. I mean, I feel like most people will still remember that they did channel to some extent, but that happens because what you're doing is you're setting aside yourself completely to let a message come through, and because of that, you're not in your analytical mind, you're not remembering, you're not trying to use your left brain like you normally would be, so you're not actively trying to remember things. And that's one thing that I say to people all the time when I'm doing a reading is like, I often don't remember your reading. Like your reading that you had a couple months ago, I'm sorry, I don't remember it because I was in that meditative, intuitive state. I wasn't in my analytical, mathematical, remembering mind, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so that was Harry Potter. Harry Potter up until number 3. There's hardly very many psychic-y things in it. It's really honestly Professor Trelawney. I think I could probably get all the other videos in one because it just goes so far off into like, I don't know, fantasy. It's really not even close to what I do at all. So yeah, guys, don't believe everything that you see in TV and media. It's often very off and wrong. And just know that it can absolutely affect how you come about learning your psychic ability. And sometimes you really have to set aside those old ideas of how that kind of works to be able to fully embrace your intuition and understand that, you know, things might work a lot differently than you expect it to. So that was my Halloween movie breakdown. I feel like I didn't go through very many. I actually still wanted to go through Hocus Pocus, but I think this video is going to be too long already. So let me know if you want me to continue to doing these, because I have a lot of fun breaking them down. It doesn't even have to be Halloween, but I will be doing this at least every Halloween. I want to do Beetlejuice. I want to do so many things, especially the Beetlejuice scene where they're all around the table. Lots of good things that I can break down. And again, if you really like this, go watch the previous video. Subscribe, and remember to stick around if you want to see more psychic development tips and tricks. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!